The reality is, in order to really get the full value of these things, companies are going to have to deploy a RAG model in their infrastructures, which basically, in a nutshell, takes large language models and combines them with your own data to ensure that the consumers are getting the exact right answer and that there's no level of hallucination that can happen on the consumer side.
Welcome to Technovation. I'm your host, Peter High. Our broadcast today comes from our most recent Metis Strategy Digital Symposium. The topic of this conversation is customer experience in the age of artificial intelligence. The panelists who we will hear from are Marty Brodbeck, the Chief Technology Officer of Priceline, and Bala Subramanian, the Chief Digital and Technology Officer of UPS. The gentleman who led that conversation was Metis Strategy Co-Head of Executive Networks Research and Media, Steven Norton. I hope you enjoy the conversation.
The conversation that we'll start the morning with is really looking at customer experience in the age of AI. We're in a world now where it feels like there's a new AI interface coming out every day, and we have more choices and channels than ever when we think about the different interactions that we have throughout the day. And so organizations then are seeing an increased demand for fast, frictionless, and personalized interaction, and looking to really sharpen the responsible use of customer data, all while balancing AI with the human element that makes customer and employee experience what it is. And speaking of, it's not just external customers that we're thinking about, but team members too, and the virtuous cycle that we can create when engaged and equipped employees are then best positioned to serve customers. And so I'm very excited to speak with two forward-thinking leaders across both travel, e-commerce, as well as logistics about how their organizations are leveraging data and tech to deliver new insights and measurably improve experiences for their customers and their employees. And with that, please allow me to introduce Bala Subramanian. He is the Executive Vice President and Chief Digital and Technology Officer at UPS, one of the world's largest shipping and logistics companies. UPS, of course, also offers a range of integrated logistics solutions for customers around the globe. Bala leads the company's digital transformation, focused on enhancing the customer and employee experience, improving organizational agility, and building digital fluency. He also drives the strategy and execution of UPS's tech and industrial engineering functions. Prior to joining UPS, he was the Chief Digital Officer at AT&T, and prior to that at Best Buy. Bala, thank you so much for joining today.
Thank you for having me, Steven. Appreciate it.
Excellent. And with him is Marty Brodbeck, the Chief Technology Officer of Priceline, a consumer travel marketplace, as well as an extensive B2B travel services business. He joined the company in 2019. He's responsible for all of the product design, engineering, infrastructure, security, support, and operations across the company. He's been a CTO many times, including at companies including Shutterstock, Diageo, and Pfizer. And he's really done a tremendous job over his time at Priceline to develop new platforms and capabilities that have been leveraged across not only Priceline, but also the parent company, Booking Holdings. Marty, thank you so much for joining.
Steven, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Of course. So both of you in your respective organizations are navigating these extremely complex webs of not only people and things moving around the world, but also just constantly changing expectations and a need to create really up-to-date, personalized experiences for customers. Marty, I thought we might start with you. How do you see customer expectations evolving, and how is that influencing your approach to customer experience at Priceline?
What's happened over the last 5 years is consumers and customers want much more immediacy in getting answers to valuable questions from consumer companies. And at Priceline, we've seen that really take shape in the form of getting immediate answers from a customer care perspective about rebooking trips, cancellations, adding on trip protection, to when they're booking or they're in our checkout flow, wanting to know what points of interest are near a hotel that they're about to book, or what kind of restaurants they can take to their family if they stay at this hotel in New York City, or what kind of activities are going to be made available to their family. And consumers and customers don't want to have to pick up the phone and wait to actually get those answers. So what we're seeing is generative AI really gives us the ability to provide customers with answers very quickly in seconds, rather than waiting through a myriad of phone calls to get to the right answer.
Noted. Yeah, that immediacy is something we're definitely seeing across a lot of organizations. Bala, maybe turn it to you on that same point. How do you see some of that immediacy and customer desire for answers quickly showing up at UPS?
I think just if I can piggyback on what Marty said. So for UPS, we deliver about 20 million packages every day. If you think about our customers, it's effectively two different cohorts we have. One is the shippers who actually ship the packages, and their expectations are very different. Then you have 20 million recipients who are actually getting the package, and they have a different experience. So, like Marty said, like immediacy and really understanding for the shipper, the recipients of 20 million, they want to be more personalized and they want to know what happened to my package. It's irrelevant for them about what happened to the next door person's package, right? So they just want to know that one. So for them, it's about personalization and really understanding when the package will come, how will it come, who's going to deliver it, and what time will it be there, so they can get the world around, they adjust their world around it, right? On the other side, if you look at it from a B2B perspective, our shippers, they want to look at it aggregate. How many packages are going out? What is happening with it? But one of the uniqueness they're also looking for is what can I do with that information? So a lot of times, visibility or information that we provide is interesting as reading the news, but what am I going to do with it? So what? I think they also want action to be taken. So I hope that makes sense. So it's two different things. One is our shippers want to be able to take action, which is a lot about like how do you really connect the real-time data, provide them information, and actually take action with it. On the recipient side, which is the 20 million customers, they are looking for personalized and tell me what is relevant for me.
I really appreciate that distinction. It's not only about making data visible, but actionable. Bala, I thought we might stick with you on this topic. Where do you see some big opportunities for AI or generative AI or technology in general to really make a measurable impact on the consumer experiences? What areas do you see really moving the needle?
So if I can step back, right? So I think AI, we've been using AI for quite a bit, right? And I think all of us in this call probably know it's not something unique for us. I think what Gen AI provides is the democratization of that information and be able to use it much faster. My kids already use it quite a bit. And so it's very different than saying that you have AI. So we use it quite a bit today for how do we deliver the most optimal routes for our drivers. We actually look at the temperature data that comes from our package cars to see what's going on, what do we need to do if there's an intervention needed, like, are they taking the breaks? So there's a lot of security and safety issues we have. We have data that comes from our drivers when they drive so that we can look at the videos and see what happens with respect to the protection and the safety, because we have packages. Sometimes these are things that we always focus on, right? Things which you probably are not aware, but that's one of the things we look at. So AI is used for that one. And then, we get about 1 billion signals every single day, Steven. So for us, it's almost like picking a needle within the haystack or just one single anomaly event that comes in. That's where we are using, like with the large amount of data we have, can we use AI to be able to provide us the insights about what happens for a driver in Kansas at that time from 1 to 2, what is actually going on in the package car. So that is one of the areas we use it. It's more of employee experience that we have. See, if I step back and look at it, there are 3 areas that I think about how we are applying AI. So one is we call the efficiency. So we can make processes efficient. We can make the life of our employees and customers better. An example is a chatbot or an assistant in both internal and external that just makes life much better for people. So that's one of the areas we're looking at. And we are implementing quite a bit. We recently launched our AI for emails that we get about 60,000 emails a day. And so this chatbot is now able to go through, understand the email, connect the relevant information, be able to provide answers back. So that's one vertical. Most of us in the call will probably are doing that already. The second area we are focused on, Stephen, and I'd love to see what Marty you're doing too, is like effectiveness. It's really about, can we change the business process? So I'll give you one example, right? So we have procurement. So procurement is done, from source to pay. We are thinking about, could you fundamentally rethink the way procurement is done by using technology? So we need less of an intervention because it's a very predictable thing. You get an RFP, you send the RFP, you get the information back, you have certain vendors. So we're trying to figure out how do we use it to completely transform the business architecture of the business model. And that's quite exciting. That's where we're actually spending more time right now. And, of course, you can look at it in multiple places, right? You can find a lot of these use cases. In the effectiveness, you're also starting to cross domains. Like if you look at an ideal organization, it's all functional based. But if you look at it for process based, it covers the domains, the HR, finance, procure operations, tech, they all have to connect together. So that's what we're doing. And the third area we're using AI and Gen AI is on innovation. Like how do we actually create completely new business models? We have a team called UPS Digital that we are using AI to predict what delivery that, for example, you do. It's called delivery defense. We have a score for a customer's house to say, if you are a shipper, if you ship to this house, what's the probability or the score that you can have that the shipment is now going to get returned or it's going to be called a stolen? So that's a complete new business model. That's not just about delivering packages, but we are telling the shipper, even before they ship it, you may want to now send it to a UPS store because we see a propensity of that either poached by so we have all the claims data. So we tell them what is going to happen there. So that's like the third pillar about innovation. So it's efficiency, effectiveness, and innovation. I'm sorry, it's a long-winded answer, but it's three different unique things, and a lot of times we just combine them into one. And as you see in all of them, there is a direct impact to how the customer is actually getting better.
Of course. No, I appreciate the distinction. And Marty, I'd like to continue on that theme with you because I know in previous conversations we've had, talked a little bit about of course, like the surprise and delight sort of experience with a customer, but there's a lot going on at Priceline behind the scenes to really make sure the efficiency and effectiveness piece is there, as well as the innovation piece. Could you talk a little bit about some of the projects that you have in flight or some of the areas that you see really making a difference within the organization?
Yeah, I think we're really focused on three key areas where we think generative AI is really going to help transform our business and also the consumer experience. The first is really around customer care. And we've been deploying a platform called Penny for the last 2 years, where Penny is really a conversational generative AI component that enables customers to cancel, rebook, reschedule any of the products on our platform. So that's flight, hotels, rental car, packages. And what that really enables is for them not to wait on the phone and talk to a customer care agent and go through all of the tiers. This allows them to immediately handle any of the components of their trip that happened after they bought the product. And that's been a game changer because what it really does is it allows technology professionals to take costs out of the business and return it to innovation. So the customer care piece is really one area where we think it's going to be very transformational for not only our company, but also a much richer and better consumer experience. The second is around really the checkout process and the way in which people buy products. So we've deployed our Penny platform in the checkout process to enable customers to get a much richer experience in a product that they're potentially going to buy. So for instance, if you're about to buy a hotel and you want to know all of the restaurants, points of interest, activities, walking distance, etc., we can supply all of that information to the consumer as they're buying one of our products. And what that enables them is to get a much richer trip experience because not only do they know the hotel that they're buying, but all the ancillary activities and restaurants that they could be doing with their family. And then the third is really around developer productivity, which I think is still really early days. What we're seeing is, the traditional developer large language models like Copilot, Whisper, et cetera, they're really good at taking generic Java tasks and telling a developer what to do, but they don't actually learn on your code base. And so we're starting to explore alternatives to that model that allow us to get all the benefits of generative AI, but for those large language models to actually learn our code base and provide a much richer experience for our developers. And so those are the three areas that we're focused on and we've been working on for the last 2.5 years that are providing really great benefits for our business.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you for that overview. And thanks for diving into the developer productivity side of that too. That's definitely a big topic of conversation these days as folks figure out how to best integrate that into their organizations. And like you were saying, get it trained on your own data. Terry, would you mind pulling up the results of the poll really quickly? I was looking at the biggest challenges to advancing AI adoption at your organization. It looks like a little bit of a split, but the biggest answers coming through are data quality and IDing some of the relevant use cases. Kind of sticking to the data quality piece, Marty, I'd be curious to hear how your data platforms are evolving, tying to what you were saying earlier about like how the operating model is also shifting in order to bring a lot of these new solutions to life at scale.
One of the biggest misnomers is that you can just take a large language model and you're going to get great results out of using that large language model. And I think there's a lot of investment that's required outside of generative AI in order to get a lot of value out of the company. And those are really three key areas that we've made a lot of investment in so that we could really hit the ground running when we started deploying our generative AI platform. The first is having really rich customer information. So we've spent the last couple of years building out a customer data platform that houses all of the behavioral patterns, the searches, what customers have booked in the past, all into one single piece of data infrastructure that we call our CDP, stands for Customer Data Platform. Two is a really rich streaming infrastructure so that we can capture all the events and activities that customers are doing on our platform and feeding that into our CDP platform. The third is having really good master data around how you define a customer or a product. And fourth is really a scalable infrastructure that allows you to turn up and down the dials on, scalability of the infrastructure. I think the other critical piece is being able to iterate and do a lot of A/B testing on features and functions to see what actually works in the generative AI space, which we've made significant investments in doing A/B testing. So for us, having a really good data infrastructure is foundational to taking advantage of any of these generative AI capabilities, because the reality is, in order to really get the full value of these things, companies are going to have to deploy a RAG model in their infrastructures, which basically, in a nutshell, takes large language models and combines them with your own data to ensure that the consumers are getting the exact right answer and that there's no level of hallucination that can happen on the consumer side.
Excellent. Thanks again for that overview. Bala, how about you on the kind of operating model side? Where do you see the biggest changes taking place?
I think Marty covered most of them, right? So the data is one of the areas. Our team is one of the best ones I've seen. They're doing a great job in actually pulling that story together. So they started with the foundation, and it's been actually going on for quite a bit. The AI, as I said, we use a lot of AI today for how goods move from one country to the other, as an example. So we have about roughly about 70 petabytes of data, and this is not including the unstructured that we have. So now the question is, how do you really use it for the LLM, like Marty was talking about? How do you put any fine tuning on top of it? So we are working through it. I won't say that it's going to be anytime we are going to be completely done. But where I'm going more and more is we will probably think about more of a logistics LLM, which is more of a vertical AI approach is what we are trying to take. The reason is the logistics environment is slightly different than the generic models that we see. An example is if you use the word called brokerage. Brokerage typically is, if you go to ChatGPT, it'll largely talk about financial brokerage, right, with your finance. Whereas brokerage for us has a very specific meaning, and it's completely about logistics and customs brokerage, right? So for us to be able to leverage our data, be able to use our taxonomy, our semantic structure, and be able to then use the LLM. So we are actually working across multiple areas. Like I said, the biggest thing for me is, according to the poll results, also connecting it to the business use case. Because what we have to be clear, and I think, Marty, it looks like you're also working, I'm using the GitHub Copilot, for example, for developer productivity. A tech team can do all of them, but really, to me, the real value unlock is when you use this technology to reimagine the business processes, to be able to drive new innovation. And that cannot be done just within a technology organization. It's a partnership that has to be with the business and the tech together. That's where I see the biggest challenge is like, okay, what is the use case? Because we are at the hype cycle. So unless we are able to show some meaningful use cases, the investments that we would need to do is going to be a challenge for us, right? Unless we are able to see some benefits coming in. That's why we are taking this approach of efficiency, effectiveness, and innovation to say, okay, let's get the use cases going and move the conversation less about the technology and more about what problem are we going to solve. I think that to me is the biggest thing. And then aligning the business teams to really understand, okay, this technology could be used to do something completely not thought about before, or we could reimagine it. At least in my humble opinion, that's where the biggest challenge will be.
1,000%. Yeah, sort of educating everyone around the organization about what this technology is and what it can do, but then really putting that business lens around a lot of these use cases. Thanks, Bala. Staying on you for just a moment, one of the things that we talked about at the top of this was that this isn't just about customer experience, but it's about driving a strong employee experience as well. How are you thinking about applying some of these solutions across the workforce, whether that's software developers or truck drivers or anyone else?
Really important for us because you can only have a good customer experience if you have good employee experience. So happy employees, happy customers, right? So I think if you think about how can we use AI for the people who are delivering services to every single touch points, the 20 million packages they're delivering. So we're specifically looking at it. We have a tool that they use or a capability called Dyad, which is a product they use, and we have our own software and AI running on it. We're also looking at using AI, for example, the chatbot. We just launched the first chatbot internally for HR-related questions. Now, we're also very, very careful about how this is being used because of the sensitivity to the information. So we are making very, very slow progress in terms of going there. But if you think about the email, for example, the customer emails, I'm flipping the model and saying, look at it inside and see all the emails we send out to our employees. Could we have the AI send it out? So there are some generic areas we're going after, Steven, to say, this could be like letting people know that your employee satisfaction survey is available. That could be an AI that can do it. Your performance reviews, maybe it can help you do the performance reviews. There are things that we are trying to do very carefully, but also being very careful about how and what kind of data, personal data, has been looked at. So governance is one that we are really focusing on, making sure that that's not broken. So chatbots, emails, you name it, right? Anything that we can actually use the AI and technology, we are actually all in. We are a lot more careful on the employee side because the risk is much higher in that case.
Yeah, tons of opportunities for potential unlock, but as you both mentioned, the governance has to be there first. We've got about 5 minutes left, and so I'd love to sort of look to the future a little bit and ask you both, and Marty, maybe we'll start with you. As you look toward the evolution of this technology, obviously things are changing really fast. We don't have perfect vision into what's going to happen. But as you look to the future, what are some of the opportunities that are really exciting you, and what are some things that the team's focused on today?
Because we're a consumer driven company, and one of the things that we always look at is driving more value for our customers. And some of the things that I think generative AI and internal AI infrastructures are going to really drive is just a much richer and better trip planning and trip execution experience. I mean, for anybody on this call knows the pain that it takes to plan a family vacation. So generative AI can definitely play a role in creating a much richer travel experience for users as they're searching for that ideal hotel or flight or set of products that would make just a fantastic experience. And I talked about this a lot, but I think customer care and core operations is going to be a game changer, particularly in the generative AI space, where individuals are going to be able to get immediate answers to any questions that they want. They're going to be able to rebook products. They're going to be able to reship them out. And then also on the operations side, if you think about infrastructure operations and running a data center and or your cloud infrastructure, a lot of those tasks similar to customer care can get automated through generative AI. So I'm really excited about those. But more importantly, I think the unlocked value for me is in developer productivity, because I think the traditional solutions that are out on the market today don't go to the extent that they should in terms of deploying a RAG model against your own code base. So it's great to give me an example script about how to write error handling for Java or Elixir. But what we want to get to is, can you write this error handling piece of code for this particular function within my code base? And that requires a whole new set of capabilities in the developer productivity space that aren't being provided by Microsoft, Amazon, or Google. So I'm super excited about that, because I think that will really ratchet up the level of productivity we can get from our developer community.
Very excited to see how that develops. And Bala, over to you. As you're looking to the future, what are some of the things that excite you on the horizon?
For us, it's if I if I step back just from Gen AI is one of the, it's one of the fantastic things that's happened for us in our careers, and I'm frankly lucky enough to be as it's starting to take off right in the business. So certainly that one, I would say, yes, that's very interesting. We are looking at a few areas, Stephen. For example, our network today, how do you really make it more adaptive? So how do you make the logistics network itself adaptive across all the countries across the world, so that when you have more like I said, 20 million packages, or not every single day, it could be 17, it could be 22. How do you really make the network breathe in and out so that it can be much effective and efficient? Because if we are able to run a much more efficient network, it directly impacts like what we do with the broader economy, because we support a lot of customers. So that's one area we're looking at it. The other one is we're including a lot of automation and robotics that's actually coming in. So we are starting to create almost like what we call near dark facilities, like so that there is not a lot of human beings who have to manage them. It's done in certain areas of warehousing, but logistics is a much different thing because of the type of packages you have. It's a really tough problem to solve, but we're excited. We have some phenomenal engineers and partners, so we're actually trying to figure that out, and we're working on it. We call it the network of the future. The third area we're actually working on is creating a digital twin of the physical network, and this is where AI is going to be pretty exciting, because what now we can do is it's almost like an IP packet. I think some of the people on the call may know what I'm talking about. So today we send the entire network, we send all the packages, and it's a flow-based network. We're now making it more routing-based network, so like almost like how your IP network is. So every package, we're investing in RFID, so it'll have its own RFID, and it'll start to pick the best path for it based on several parameters, like the product requirements, whether it's a vaccine is different than what you get. My jacket, for example, is very different. So how do you really start to differentiate the product when it is in the network? And more importantly, what can you do to orchestrate it, which means you can intercept a package. We send everything from your shoes to like life-saving vaccines. And how do you start to differentiate them? So that's a tough problem, especially at the scale we have, and also making sure the cost efficiencies are there. So those are like pretty exciting, and I think all of them are underpinned because now we can handle lots of data, and we can handle with the fact that with Gen AI, I can provide a very nice window to everybody. It doesn't need like some top engineers. You can actually give it to our operators with a very simple assistant that they can ask the questions and get the answers, but not have to think like you have to have how to actually use all kinds of visualization techniques. That's why when I talk about democratization, it is so exciting, because you can bring it to anybody in the company with all the power that we can actually bring in. So that's pretty exciting.
Excellent. Yeah, making all of that actionable for just such bigger group of people than was ever possible before. Well, guys, I know we could continue to talk about this for a long time, but we're unfortunately out of time for now. But Marty and Bala, thank you so much for taking the time today. Thank you for the fantastic conversation, and we'll look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Stephen. Appreciate it.